Dr. Gupta, unlike our past conversations, I haven't prepared a long list of candidate questions. So I was just hoping we'll just take it wherever it goes.
Sure.
So, what I've found unique about your ideas, Dr. Gupta, is that they're very logical, they can be examined and evaluated against my own experience. And the more I've gotten into it just from listening and reading your ideas, I don't need to take anything on blind faith or trust, right? And also, they're logical, it's not cryptic. Now, in my case, I find that I have to read or listen to your ideas multiple times.
I mean, some might call it cryptic. Some do call it cryptic.
I see. Yeah, I find that it is more about just that exploration. So, in my case, I view the ideas as pointers, and then I have to really listen to it multiple times or read it multiple times.
Yeah, and that's why they call it cryptic, is because they're used to comic books and tabloids and 5 steps and jump up and down. And so this is not that. So you have to reach. And the reaching might strain your arm, so to speak. I think it'll strain everything about the human being. So if you think that whatever I write, it's like a beach read, you're just going to read it. Oh, that's not what I do. And I'm not trying to make it difficult or this or that. It's just that the truth is not, you know, wiggle your ears and you'll become happy. And that's not what this is. So if you expect, as you logically would, you meaning anybody, when you're used to the world and the experts and the society and the books and the media that you're used to, which is basically everything that you're used to, and then you come over here, you expect to have it on face value immediately. And if you expect that, you're not going to get it. And in fact, I think I posted that message on Twitter before, is don't think you understand.
Yeah, there's something about relating the ideas with whatever challenges I'm facing right now or at any point. And that is where at some point there's some realization.
Sure.
And I also wanted to share, like, I've been finding your Direct Truth podcasts helpful in this regard. Some of them are 10 minutes long, but each time I listen to them, some of them I've listened to 6, 7 times. I discover something I'd missed earlier. And yeah, it's just, I've found it to be, there are layers to it. And in fact, even having this kind of conversation live is difficult for me because I just inevitably miss some depth of what you said. And then as a third, fourth, or fifth listen that I realize what I missed.
Sure. And then, that I think that's kind of gets back to, humans who are deep thinkers versus shallow thinkers, without any judgment call about that. It's just, if that's just the way it is. I mean, and it's kind of like, you might look at it and say, oh, it's only 8-minute podcast or 10 minutes podcast. And you might even look at my books and how come they're not 400 pages or three? Because I don't write fluff. I don't do intro music, and I'm not interested in buy my this, that, and subscribe to my nonsense. And you know what I mean? Like, so for me, I guess as human beings, we all do what we would want, right? And in that sense, we're all biased. We're biased in that we like what we like. And so those biases is how we is decides what we actually pursue and what we avoid just for our own selves. That's why I never say my work is for, you or this guy. I don't know. Like you will know when you come. I can't predict that for you. And and so it's kind of like, what would you I kind of like, what would I rather have? Like if I had, let's say, a plumbing issue, right? And the guy said, okay, I'll charge you $5,000 and I'll fix it in 20 minutes. Or I'll charge you $500 and I'll fix it in 3 hours, right? Because humans, especially employers, they're this shallow thinking. Well, you only spend 5 minutes or 30 minutes and you charge $5,000. Right? Well, that's kind of stupidity thinking. I mean, do you pay more for getting it done quick or stretching it out? Right? What is time worth to you? And And so it's kind of like the guy who gets everything done he gets all his work done really quickly because he's efficient. Well, his coworkers and his boss won't like that. They will say, well, you just sit around all day long. Well, yeah, because I got all my work done in 10 minutes because I know what I'm doing. Yeah, but that doesn't have any value. If you would have put in 8 hours, then that means something. That's the currency, right? That's the currency that the world values is work, not efficiency, not outcome. And so actually, I think the plumber that, is $1,000 or whatever it is for 20 minutes is more valuable. That's more value to get it done in 20 minutes. Therefore, it should be more than to get it done over 5 hours. And so it's kind of like that. Like everyone, once again, all things return to the same thing, right? All U-turns go back to the same place. We're back to cosmetics again, right? Not what's in the podcast, not what's in the book, not what's in the media, not I don't know, like how long was it? Well, how about I put 45 minutes of dead space in there? How about I spend 20 minutes talking about how you should buy all my stuff? How about I spend, 10 minutes of intro music? How about I tell jokes from their 12 minutes? Would that make you feel better? Like, so I don't do it for you anyways, but once again, back to my original statement, we do what we would want. And if I wanted to listen to something, look, spare the nonsense. I hate intro music, right? So if I listen to something, my immediate fingers go to 5 minutes into fast forward 5 minutes. I don't want to hear your highs and hellos and who's and boo. I just stop. My life is limited. Your life is limited. Everyone's life is limited. We only have so many years on this earth, and time is very valuable. And intro music is an insult to time. And I don't have time for your crap. So that's how I would want it. Just get to the point. Don't go on tangents. Don't tell me stories. Don't tell me about all your great success. I don't want to hear it, right? Get to the point. A book should be 80 pages, 60 pages, 40 pages, 100 pages. No fluff. But humans are fluff oriented. So I think my stuff is more like 2 minutes, but it'll take you a lifetime, right? 3 minutes long, 74 words, but it'll take you a lifetime, maybe 10 lifetimes. That's what I enjoy. That's how what I because I don't like fluff. So it's all personal, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conditioning that also plays a part here, where I find, for instance, that what do many books have? They just have a bunch of stories. So this company did this in this situation, et cetera, et cetera. And then they're providing proof, like evidence. And then
To convince, to convince.
yes, to convince.
Yeah.
And what most people don't realize, and took me a while to understand, is that it is not really evidence, right? If one is seeking that kind of objective evidence, what one doesn't understand is like it can be provided for any point that the author
Yes,
wants to
that's
make.
right. That's right. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
You can find an example for anything.
Yes. And then you can always modify the exact story in a way that it fits with your narrative. So it is more about just evaluating the ideas presented, examining them. Even in typical business books, like that is more useful and critical than, oh, but you didn't give me three stories, or you didn't give me evidence of whether this has worked for XYZ famous company.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's all
Also,
entertainments. Yeah.
I also find that it's similar with, again, this is like otherwise smart, intelligent people often like they get impressed with somebody's personal story, right? Okay, like what happened, and then they share a personal story, and then the responses are, oh, I loved how authentic and vulnerable this was. And yet, like, again, the story is not where the core is, the story is not where the value is. The real value is, if one wants to take it and do something with it. But yet, stories are entertaining. And so, therefore, we just find it more just compelling in many cases.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. I also find that's why when somebody asks me about, tell me about a time when, you had a product failure where you thought you had made the right decision. And I just have to respond with, sure, I can tell you something. How is that going to help you? It's not going to help in any way.
Exactly. Exactly. When did you know that you wanted to be okay? Tuesday at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Like what are these? Just humans don't know how to ask questions. They just because they swim in cosmetics. Like when did you? Who cares about like what day of the week is it? What time it? What does it have to do with anything? When did you? Right? It's once again the humans can't get out of the cosmetics, and that's what I always mean by like who's out there, right? There's nobody out there. Everyone is looking for entertainment. Therefore, there's the demand for entertainment, and therefore there is the supply of entertainment. And so demand just the supply just meets the demand. It's all fluff. And so when something deviates from that, since that's the precedent that's been set, that more is better, that a bigger book, a longer podcast, you get more for your money, so to speak. Well, when that's the lens, then my work really is only going to resonate with very small few.
Yeah, and at some point, as I started writing, I noticed that there was for me myself some kind of pull of the demand because people would say, "Oh, can you write this? Can you expand things in this manner and that manner?" And initially, I was tempted to do that until a point when I realized that what brings about the best insights from me for my craft is when I am just connected to what it is that I am truly driven and authentically want to share. Like I just can't stop myself expressing it. And that just works much better than trying to, oh, where's the demand and so on. And so, like, very early, I was fortunate enough to recognize that. And that's just been very helpful for me in terms of just the joy that I get from doing what I do.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Gupta, in our exchange over DM last month, you said humans will remain a million miles from truth their entire lives. And my assumption here is that most people, even those who have the latent DNA, will still remain a million miles from truth. So I was wondering if we could explore what the reason or reasons are for this.
Because the characteristic slash trait slash strand of DNA slash nature that is required for inside of a particular human being is practically non-existent. That's why the DNA and nature and characteristic and trait that's required to maniacally move towards truth and dismiss the world is an almost non-existent DNA and trait. That's why.
Now, in our last conversation, we had talked about latent DNA, right? Well, it's still there.
And so the latent DNA, when such a person is exposed to truth, he will have some resonance with it. Something will speak to him about it. The problem is that unless he has the DNA which compels or propels him towards pursuing truth at the expense of the world, uh, then he will remain a million miles from he he may come 100 miles closer or maybe even 10,000 miles closer than anybody else because they don't even have the latent DNA, but he will still remain a million miles because his love for the world, his interest in the society is too great. And that's what I mean by there's got to be, the perfect storm, right? So many things have to line up. That's why it's three people in history. I mean, that's why it's not a fluke, right? That's why, because what was it? Wasn't that the book, the movie, The Perfect Storm, right? Where that was like the one in a century or whatever it was that all the storms lined up in one particular area and that never really happens. So some cataclysmic event has to happen. So many things have to line up. And it's hard enough for one thing to line up to even want truth. Okay, fine. You have the DNA for that. Fine. Then on top of that, you have to have the DNA to walk away from the world and be disinterested in all your friends and all the socialization. I mean, well, now we're going once again, we're going to the middle of outer space now. And so you think Buddha wasn't a perfect storm? Because if you think he wasn't a perfect storm, the ascetics whom he learned from, the meditation and sit there and the urine and this drink of urine and the eat the 1 grain of rice and all that stuff. See, you can't call them like they were pretty serious, right? I mean, after all, they weren't nothing. They too left the world and they came into the jungle. That's a that's not a small thing. That's a pretty big step, pretty drastic. So they wanted, spirituality and the peace they wanted what Buddha got. So you can't say they didn't want it. They wanted it, but they didn't have the DNA. They didn't have the other DNA, which was, okay, fine, I'll do this much, but this is not enough. It's enlightenment or nothing. And I will walk away from the group and I'll walk away from the teachings. I'll do whatever I can if I see that wasn't there. That DNA wasn't there. You see? So the reason why the Buddha and the Jesus and these are rare is because it isn't because of them. They're not special. The DNA and the alignment and the layering and the coming together of all the elements of DNA upon each other, that's special. They are just a recipient of that. Have you ever seen a town in which a hurricane hits and the same day a tsunami hits, right? And the same day lightning strikes, and the same day a, earthquake hits, all in the same town the same day? It never happens, right? That's the kind of thing we're talking about. That's why it's so rare.
I'm seeing this in my personal experience as well. And what I've observed is when it comes to the craft I practice, I have obsessed with uncovering the truth. Not because I felt like I needed to, but because I was just genuinely driven to. On the other hand, when it comes to other aspects, like, say, personal life and relationships and being a parent and those kinds of things, the only times when I have desperately sought truth is when there is active suffering,
Yes.
right? And the suffering is too much. And so then there is some desperation and some, by definition, extrinsic drive.
But even that's fine. Usually it is suffering which leads someone in the direction of truth. But the thing is, the DNA which the DNA which compels one to never let up on the truth, as opposed to a fair weather fan, as opposed to a bandwagon jumper, as opposed to circumstantial, as opposed to sometimes, as opposed to part-time. Because even the person who doesn't believe in God, when he is deeply suffering, even he will sometimes, okay, well, let me go to church, and he goes to church and to a temple or a church, whatever he go, and he says, I know that I'd never come here, and so, I want to apologize for that, but things have gotten so bad now that see, so like even then, right? So, uh, but the consistency, and I don't like any of these words because they sound self-helpy, right? That you should be consistent, you should be, no, I'm talking naturally, the same way you breathe air, right? These, you know, these things really are not, I mean, in some ways, universally, they're for humans, they're for everybody. But on a practical level, this is really for nobody because it's difficult to relate unless you're one of those three throughout human history.
Yeah, and I think from some of our DM exchanges over the past month or so, I suppose I've realized I am that, like in your, like you've said somewhere else, like the window shopper, right? When
Sure,
it comes to the truth.
sure. Well, but with no judgment, just plainly stated,
Yes,
with no kind, with no
yes,
like, you shouldn't be that way and
right.
shame on
It's not
you.
good or bad. It is
Yeah,
what
no,
it is.
no, no,
Yeah,
no, no. Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah.
But see, I have to say something. Like, you see, okay, let's say you take even the most intellectual, logical, like, individual, right? Who everything is logic, 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 intellect, intellect, intellect. Okay, fine. It's even you even take who doesn't have the bandwidth to see that things that he cannot see cannot exist, right? The cosmos and the forces that exist in the universe, he can't like fathom that because he can't reproduce it in a laboratory. All right. That kind of small-minded individual. All right. So even him, if you approach truth from the standpoint of logic, it can still get you pretty far. Because let's say that someone is struggling with something, right? Let's say, fear or whatever it is. All these things that all humans struggle with, no matter who you are. Okay, what your name is, right? And he does all the tricks, right? And he does the meditations and the ABCs and the spiritual and the self-development and the self-help. But he still has the fear, right? Or whatever his poison is. Okay, what he can say is, if this has been his experience, what he can say is, okay, look, like all I can say is the things that I've tried for years and years have not worked. If he is a pragmatist, if he says, look, I have X and I want to get rid of X, then he's an outcome-based person, which is, I think, the way you should be, so to speak, right? Okay, because otherwise you can believe anything pie in the sky about anything if it isn't outcome-based. So he has fear and he wants to get rid of fear. And then he tries all the A, B's, and C's. If he has discovered that they haven't done anything, then what he can establish for himself is, okay, look, I've done all these things, all the books and the experts and the gurus and the this and the that, and it just hasn't. I feel fear is still here. The fear is still here. Okay, so that guy will, the same way that that other guy will go to the church for the first time in his life, right? This guy was, okay, well, maybe there's something in the truth then, because nothing else has worked, right? And you can also approach it from the standpoint of, okay, like the example I always give is the rain falling, right? Like the rain doesn't have any interest in falling, right? It doesn't want to get anything wet. It doesn't even know what wetness is. It just falls. And it falls because, the atmospheric pressure and the humidity and the moisture and the X, Y's, and Z's are at a particular, within particular parameters. And then the rain has no choice but to fall. Rain falls, right? So that rain fell according to truth. And if you asked the rain to fall, it wouldn't fall. And if you practiced a behavior, the rain wouldn't fall. And you don't have the ability to go up and change the clouds with your hands. You don't have the ability to go up there and squeeze the air to change the atmospheric pressure. You don't have the ability to take a bucket of water and dump it into the atmosphere so that more moisture is created for the rain. You don't have that, right? So the rain falls according to the truths for the rain to fall. So the rain doesn't listen to you. And the rain spits in the face of experts. And the rain turns its back on spiritualists. The rain has no interest and no need for any human being. No book, no media, no nothing. The rain simply falls when the truths are in line for the rain to fall. And when that happens, even if the rain didn't want to fall, it couldn't help it. It couldn't even stop it. So even the intellectual, the logic-minded individual would listen to that. And I guess they could disagree if they wanted to. It's up to them. But to me, it makes perfect sense, right? It doesn't have to you if you don't. That's up to you. I'm not forcing anything. But that's how all things are created. That's how all things are created. So if that's how all things are created, then the only place to go is truth. If rain is your gold, then the only place to go is to line up with the atmospheric pressure and the moisture and the whatever parameters that make the rain fall. So truth is the only thing That isn't spiritual, and there's no abstractness. Rain isn't spiritual, right? It isn't like holy rain, it's rain. Okay. So that's how all things work. And I realized that. So for me, the only path became truth. If I'm on that side, if the more I can learn about how things happen all by themselves, why wouldn't I learn that? Because that's the outcome's only going to be listening to that. The outcome isn't going to be listening to the people. So why would I listen to those people whom the outcome doesn't listen to? There is nothing spiritual and abstract and philosophical and woo-woo about what I just said. This is second grade.
It is the most obvious observation, and yet I missed it for several decades of my own life. And I also find that there is a gap between the intellectual comprehension of truth, even if it's given to you somehow, or you get exposed to it somehow, and like the full body assimilation of that truth. And for me, this seems to be the biggest obstacle. And I haven't quite understood like why this obstacle is so persistent, even when I have surmounted it previously for another truth.
Because you have to first acquire the bandwidth. So let's say that the only language that you know is English. And there's an entirely other language which no one knows. And it's made up of all different kinds of characters, which are unestablished. Well, you can't bring your A is for apple, B is for boy, C is for cat to that, right? You will, and logically so, all you can do in trying to decipher that unknown language is use the language that you currently have. That's the only tool you have. You can't bring nothing. You will bring what you have, right? And so, in the same way, the human has been conditioned to the A, B's, and C's of the society, of the world. His whole philosophy, from top to bottom, from head to toe, is swimming, is saturated. Every cell has imbibed it. Every organ has soaked it up. He is a living, breathing, societal human. When he comes to truth and sees something written, straight truth, which doesn't give a damn about him, which has no interest in trying to convince him, which doesn't care about him, same way that rain doesn't care about him, it just speaks straight. The human being doesn't know what to do with that because all he can do is try to decipher that through his own tools. So he will look at my work, for instance, and say, okay, so what do I do? So what's the steps? Oh, so you're saying I should do this. Oh, so I should practice that, right? He, and this is another podcast actually that I did recently. I used this example, and it's the same. I think it's an apt example. Is you know, you can immediately come to me and say, well, how many cows do you own? And in order to ask that question, you have to be conditioned to think that I have a farm full of cows. So you didn't even ask me, do I have a farm full of cows? You asked me, you already bypassed that step. You said, well, how many cows do you own? Right? That's because you live in a world, in a society which convince you that everybody has cow. I mean, are you an idiot? You don't have a farm of cows? Everybody has a farm of cows. That's what you do. You have a farm of cows. Okay. So you come in with you begin at the next step with me, right? You come in preconditioned, that is non-negotiable. This guy has to have a farm full of cows. So then you ask me, well, how many do you have and what color are they? Right? And how much milk do they give? And you go forward instead of backwards. You go more towards the limb of the tree as opposed to the root of the tree. What you should be asking is, well, do you have any cows at all, first of all? But that's never going to enter your mind, because for 50 years, 40 years, 80 years, whoever how old someone is, that's all they've ever known. So why would they not assume that the person has a farm full of cows? So it requires not only there is no farm full of cows, there's not even a farm. Not only is there no farm, there's not even a field. Not only is no field, there's not even a fence. Not only there's not a fence, there's not even a wide open, like once again, how many sacred cows do you want to? So you have to go deeper and deeper and less and towards 0 and 0 and -5. And that, how can you expect anyone, any reasonable individual, to read something and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to go in that direction? That's insane. That's insane.
Why does my past experience not help me where I have gotten exposed to some other truth, or I have myself just discovered a certain truth of my own craft? And then over time, it just became a part of me. And it was like self evident at that point, and I just knew it to
Because
be the truth.
because those truths are in one particular materialistic domain. And the truths that I'm talking about is your very life, is your very existence. Because what you're, okay, fine, what you're basically doing without knowing it is, okay, fine. I'll go towards the truth over here in this little area over here, but not my whole life. I mean, that's, you got to be practical here. I can't, you can't do that, right? And like, that's what without knowing it, that's what's happening. And that's what I mean. One has to have the DNA, which is, I don't even like the world. Like my daily existence in this world and what goes on and what I see and what I hear, I reject all of it. That, once again, we're talking alien DNA here.
Yeah, yes. And just basically attachment.
I don't know. I don't think you can reduce it to a word. I just, I think it's, I think it's love for the world, interest in society, interest in people, interest in nonsense, interest in the game of entertainment, just interested. And fine, like there's no blame there because you didn't try to be interested. So it wasn't a wrong thing that you did. There's no blame. It's just naturally, that's why I said it's a natural DNA.
Yeah, looking back, like ever since very early childhood, I've felt like just some instinctive aversion and disagreement with some of the ways of the world, ways that like everybody assumed were the only way, and this is how it works, and so on. At the same time, I think I find that I derive some pleasure from being in this world and being
Sure,
integrated.
sure.
And it, maybe it's the pleasure that's
Yeah,
that's what's causing it.
it's back to the, little d desire versus big D desire. What is that you desire the most without any feeling that you should desire this or that?
Yeah, and then there's suffering every once in a while,
Sure.
and it's
Yes.
painful. And then there is a at least
Then
temporarily
it's painful,
drive.
and then you look for the ointment of spirituality and
Yes.
self-help to try to rub on there for a few hours, and then yeah, that's the game.
Yeah, Dr. Gupta, I did that for 4 decades of my life, the self-help stuff, and maybe in some cases it worked on the margin, but it never solved the problem.
No.
And that's when I realized that this is not it. And that took so repeating the same mistake like 100 times, right? Like throughout life, to realize this is never going to solve the problem. It might be a temporary relief at times, and that feels good, no doubt, but it's never going to solve the problem.
But see, that requires two things. That requires something to be created, which does solve the problem. And on the other hand, it requires an individual who is interested in the cure, not the treatment. And once that too is a cataclysm which must occur. Because if you have a cure for the problem, but the person really isn't interested in the cure, then he's not going to be interested. If you have a person who's interested in the cure, but he's given something which is only a treatment, he's not going to be. So both things have to occur.
Yeah, I think I was just under the illusion that the treatment is the cure, right? Because it kind
Sure,
of
no,
treated it.
understandable,
So,
understandable. Yes, and that's why you should try it, right? To see for yourself,
right.
self, you know, look for yourself.
Yeah, and in a past conversation, you pointed out to me that like your problem is that you're viewing this thing through the lens of good and bad. And frankly, at the time, I didn't entirely follow it. I went back to what you said. And this is now still at the level of intellectual understanding. I intellectually understand now that this idea of this is a good event, this is a bad event, right? Like, is one conditioning, and second, it is at the root of the suffering that then ensues.
Yes,
This is an example of something where I intellectually get it, but it's not fully assimilated in my body.
sure, sure. But if you aren't even exposed to it intellectually, then maybe the possibility of getting it viscerally is almost non-existent.
Oh, for sure. Just the chasm between.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah, because you feel stuck.
yes. You feel stuck because you're not allowed to use your favorite tool, which is what do I do?
And that's the interesting one, right? I have overcome that one, which is, I'm like, my instinct
No,
earlier would
you
be,
maybe have overcome it with regard to craft, but not in life.
I am not looking for steps. I'm not looking for actionable advice or anything of that sort in this regard, right? I'm looking to understand. So I'm just sitting, and not just sitting, but just working it out.
Yeah, then
That's where
maybe
I'm
then
at.
maybe you have that latent DNA that you, right, that we spoke of.
Yeah.
See, like once again, it's all biased, right? Like a person who loves blueberries might think, well, I don't know, blueberries are so tasty. I don't know how you can't like blueberries. How can you? And I'm sure you've heard people, you're even in family, well, how can you not like bananas? I mean, how can you? They're so tasty, right? And and that's because, we are all as human beings are biased, right? We're biased according to what we desire, what we like. I'm biased towards truth. I love truth. So I'm always looking at things from the standpoint of truth because that's what I like, right? So I'm biased towards that. So in the same way, like it all depends upon what you like, you know. Um, you can't fake things, not with the universe, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely seems to be, because I just examine my own thoughts in life, and particularly with regards to things outside of my craft. There is an aspect of just, oh, this seems convenient, right? Oh, let me just take the convenient way here. And while at the same time, I realize the stupidity of it all, which is, okay, you've done this so many times before, and it surfaces again. And that's where I feel like I'm still, quote, window shopping. Because, yeah, I don't find that I'm fully devoted to seeking that truth.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this is where like the bias. So to me, I look at truth as well, since truth is what all outcomes bow down to, since truth are what all outcomes consult, why would I listen? Why would I go anywhere else? And so just in the same way someone might say to you, how can you not like blueberries, right? I would never force it upon someone. And I would never say that to anyone that you should like truth or whatever. But in my mind, I'm think like, How can, I mean, I know the answer to this question, but there's still the sentiment, which is, how can you not just devote your whole life to the truth? Like, how can you not? And I know the answer because the answer is because truth is viewed as some spiritual thing and shave your head and move to the mountains, right? That's what, but truth, when one understands on a practical day to day, on a Wednesday afternoon level, right? Like, how can you not devote your life to the thing that's the only thing that exists? So you're voluntarily saying, oh, yes, I raise my hand. I will devote my life to untruth. I will devote my life to things that don't work. Yes, please, me over here, choose me. I will devote my life to things that are manufactured and temporary. Oh, please choose me. I will devote my life to things that are fleeting. Oh, yes, please choose me. I will devote my life to things that bring suffering and anxiety and things that bring all the things that I don't want and then look for ointment to get rid of. Why? Right? So I know the answer. The answer is that no one really understands what truth actually, like what it, they think it's spiritual and woo woo and this and that and move to a monastery. No, no, no. Like they don't understand that all the things in the world are untrue. They're just they're just untrue, right? And so that's why they don't. But inside of me, I'm like, wow, like, how could you not? How could you not? What choice do you have? Untruth? Lies? Misery, suffering, confusion. That's what you're going to choose. Like that's in my instinctive reaction is that, right? But but I will always say because I will never force. You can't force. I'll never say that you should follow truth. But in thinking, I'll think, well, it just makes okay. You can do that if you wish. You know.
Yeah, I see the same when I'm talking about thinking about the truth of my craft, where there are people who are just stuck in their product business, trying to make it successful for years. And then my view is, well, here's the truth of this thing. It's the only thing there is. Like, sure, it'll require some thinking on your part, sure, it'll require some commitment on your part, but it's the only thing that's going to be freeing. And it's so paradoxical that I see it for my craft and not for, it's the same thing. It's not for other aspects, departments.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's, again, none of this is, oh, I should do this. That's why I should do it, right? It's
No,
not
no,
that at
no,
all.
no. But see, even that is what? It's everything, it's conditioning, right? Because what what's in the world? What are all the experts, you know? You should do this and you should do that. And yeah, it's from a in most cases, it's from a intention to help you. Sure. I mean, it's not a I don't doubt anyone's intentions. They want to help people. But everything is you should do this all around you. Everything is a coercion, right? What do you have with advertising and sales and everything is a coercion. Everything. Buy this and the commercials and the that's what I mean by it's in every single pore of the human being. It's in every single cell. That's what he's been dipped in forever, for his whole life. So that's why you say, that's why you made the statement, it isn't like it would be something that you should do. That's why you said that, right? You're contrasting it to like the background of the world. Because everything always is you should do this and don't do that and all that stuff.
Yes. And it's also not coming like, it's also not coming from a prescription of you should not have a should, right? Because
That's right. That's right. And
that's
that's
so,
why, once again, this is really foreign territory, right? And so that's why I say people don't think you'll understand. That's not a knock against one's intelligence. It's just this is really left field stuff, right? So on the one hand, there's no you should, and on the other hand, there's no you shouldn't. Well, then if you take away both, then what do I do? Right? If you take away the left and the right, then what do I do? Walk in the middle? No, I'll take away the middle too. There's no middle. So then the person's stuck. His hands are tied, his mouth is gagged, right? He can't do anything. Well, then how's there going to be any progress? Well, where am I? What do I? You're taking everything away, like nothing to do. I can't even think that I should. I can't even think that I should not. Like I can't even think that I sometimes should and sometimes should not. Like this is what I mean. That's the only, and it's an understandable confusion because that's the place from where they come. So when you come from a certain place, which is the world, which is any place, and you enter a whole new climate, everything, all the rules change. I mean, maybe gravity makes you go up over here. I don't, like nothing is the same here. Your stuff doesn't work here. And it's impractical to say that someone enters into my room and says, okay, well, I'm gonna turn off all the things that I know, and I'm gonna disbelieve all the things that I've believed in, and I'm gonna jettison everything, and and now I'll enter the room. That's not that's ridiculous. That's not gonna happen. You're gonna bring into my room the things of the world because that's all you know. So your compass isn't gonna work over here. And then on top of all that, I'm not gonna go out of my way to explain it to you. Because I have no interest in convincing anyone. That also is non-worldly, right? Everyone's want to convince. Everyone from your own mother down to your neighbor, to your distant whatever, to your friend, to the guy on the street, to the media guy, to the expert, to the book. There is no non-convincer.
One unlock for me, Dr. Gupta, was between the should not, right? Oh, wait, are you saying I should do this, should not, like neither? The big unlock for me for the past couple of years was just, well, there's no kind of, and I shared this in the document I shared with you as well. My understanding was there is no universal prescription except to seek truth, but only if you wish. Like, even that is
Yes.
not a convincing thing.
Correct.
And so, what do I do? Well, seek truth if you wish. And that just, along with the observation, the other unlock was truth is logical and practical. And it's the most logical and practical thing out there, right? Like, just those two were a huge unlock for me, just from following what you shared.
Yeah.
The other one was, I think, initially when you said no prescriptions, I followed it. I mean, followed as in I understood it, again, intellectually, but I just did not understand the depth of it
No, and
for a
I think
while.
that one statement that you just mentioned, I think is a reverberation through all my work, is that you can't possibly know the depth of what I'm talking about. Even if you understand the thing, it's like a million times past that, to where a client will say 7 years later, oh, now I know what you meant by that. Now I know what you meant by that. Well, it isn't like he didn't understand the words. They're plain English. They weren't big words, right? Now I know the depth of what you meant by that. See, my thing is I don't go out of my way to make people understand because I don't have the interest. That isn't that isn't my blueberry. You know what I mean? That isn't what I like. So when you come into my work, it's very self-motivated. I mean, I'm not going to try to keep you here. In fact, I'll probably tell you to go somewhere else. I mean, I get squeamish when too many people come, you know? So it really is a self-motivated thing driven by one's own DNA. And quite honestly, I don't even want anybody here who doesn't have that DNA. I don't want the fluff. I think it's an insult to enter my room with fluff. So, I mean, in all honesty, I'm thinking of all the things that You know, I'm thinking I should raise all my prices, so to speak, 100 times so that even nobody comes, you know? I don't want people because then it's all, I don't, my interest in the truth is a direct pursuit of raw truth. And I like writing about it and speaking about it and publishing it and that kind of thing. I don't get anything from raw and good job and more people came. Once again, we all like what we like, and that informs how we do things. You know, so the people who say to me, "Oh, he charges $500 for a 10-minute podcast," the guy's an idiot. He doesn't understand anything about me, right? And because what he's saying the going rate, right? He's comparing it to the background of the world. I say, whenever you compare this to the background of the world, I mean, of course, you're going to be looking through that lens, and through that lens, I understand, right? It should be 2 hours long or an hour long or whatever, blah blah blah. And so that makes me want to say, well, it should be $5,000 then. You know, I don't want to keep it accessible and in reach. So I don't want anyone. The world just makes me angry. I'm disgusted by the world. I don't like people. I don't like the world. I don't even think that you deserve the truth, to be honest. I'm motivated to do it. And if my motivation was to have everyone want the truth, I bet the podcast would be like $20. You think I wouldn't make more money? Those who are money mongers, you think I wouldn't make more money by charging $20 for the podcast? I probably make more money, right? I don't want that. That isn't what moves me. Rarity moves me, you know? So everything that I do, that's what I mean by how we behave, what our actions are, what our behaviors are all a function of what we desire most. And if you desire money most, you will price things accordingly and you will go out and try to convince and you will create mass marketing campaigns and and none of which are wrong. And I really honestly mean that. None of that is wrong. I'm not going to bash someone for their desire, whatever their desire is. Since I make $5 billion because I really get a kick out of having that much money and I want to have that's fine. Like I'm making the statement that whatever you desire is how you will behave. Whatever you are most driven by and moved by will be what is reflected in what you do. It'll all be colored by that, right? So those are all, I mean, if someone compares price, like in my domain, price to what they get, if that comparison is even done, this is not for them. This is not for them. And I'll never say, oh, you'll get way more out of it than you. I will never say that. I will never say that. That's a judgment for the individual, not for me, right? So if somebody asks me, is my work good? I'll say, no, it's bad. Don't come. I'll get an email. Which book should I read? Don't read any of them. And that isn't some clever, like, reverse psychology nonsense. First of all, I don't think it's going to be for you. Number two, the chances that you have the DNA are probably zero. Number three, what am I talking to you for? It's out there. If you want to take it, if you don't. I mean, I may even take it off the market tomorrow. I don't know. I fly by night, right? I fly by instinct. Whatever I feel like, I do. And you know who I love? I love those people who call it too expensive because I immediately know who to completely disregard. They wear the red t-shirt and they demonstrate themselves as me. I'm the unserious. I'm the one who doesn't like it. Great. Just great. Not a problem. Identify yourself. I don't want you anyways. I don't want anybody. I don't need people. Truth is my God. And I will bow down to it and I will devote myself to it. And I want to learn about it. I want to discover more and more about it. I want to dive into it as possibly as I humanly can. And that is how I want to spend my life. That is, to me, is the best way I can spend my time on this earth. Not in trying to please people.
Yeah. Couple of thoughts come to mind, Dr. Gupta. First, just the observation. If somebody emails saying, which piece of yours should I read first, which book, that itself, in general, especially when it comes to very high levels of any art or craft, it kind of disqualifies the individual because that high level is going to require, by definition, a lot of the work, the vast majority of work has to happen on part of the individual. And so one is signaling by asking, like, hey, which of your piece should I begin with, or
Sure.
whatever.
But in
Uh,
in but in all honesty, once again, in anyone's defense, I will say that the first interactions or the beginning interactions, how can they not bring that to my domain? They will bring the world. But it doesn't mean they don't necessarily have the latent DNA. The chances are pretty slim, but they might have the latent DNA. Just like you, when you first came, it was the same thing, right? What the hell do you mean no prescriptions? What are you talking about, right? So you have latent DNA, but even you said that, right? So I don't blame anyone. I don't blame anyone even for disregarding my work and thinking it's nuts and going away. I don't blame. It's not for you. Then, it's not for anyone, honestly. I don't write for anyone. So it isn't for anyone, it's for me. But if it happens to resonate with you, then something within you happened to resonate with the words, and that doesn't make you good or you bad, and if it doesn't resonate with you, that doesn't make you bad. So because I'm not trying to, not even trying, that's not a behavior, because I have no interest in trying to get you on board, then that informs what I do and how I do it. Because that isn't my main motivation. If I had 37 million followers on Twitter, right? And I sold 40,000 books a day, I don't care. It wouldn't change anything for me because that's not what I'm driven by. And I didn't choose what I'm driven by. That's not a good thing or a bad thing. I didn't choose that. I didn't choose to like strawberries, and you didn't choose to like blackberries, right? Those things chose you and they chose me. So that's not what moves me is truth. That stuff doesn't move me. It doesn't even move me when I get a two-page letter about how this changed someone's life and they read my work and it would change their life. Like that doesn't, once again, I'm not trying to, nothing here is effort-based. Nothing here is behavior-based. Nothing that I'm telling you is thing that I'm trying to do or trying not to do. I'm just telling you out of the box, default setting, naturally, being perfectly honest with you, naturally how things are for me. You can call it good or bad if you want. That's up to you. Good. Oh, that's not bad. Oh, that's not good. Or he should or he shouldn't. That's up to you. I don't do that with others. I don't say you should like truth. I don't say you should. I don't think it's good or I don't think it's bad that you don't like truth. I don't say that. Because I know that a human didn't choose the things that he desires.
and your point is, in a way, universal. So, for instance, maybe let's say there was another person, individual, who was doing these weekend seminars for self-realization, self-actualization, etc., whatever, charging whatever amounts and motivating, inspiring people. Like, you wouldn't say that's bad necessarily
No,
if he
no,
or she is
no.
driven by it,
That's right. That's
right?
right.
Like,
That's right.
they should do what they are driven to do,
That's right. And they're going to anyways.
right?
Right. So that's what I said earlier. I have no problem with the guy who says I want to make $7 billion because I love to count my money and I love to look at that's fine. Like I reject all that spiritualism crap about money is evil, but then I also reject the other side, which is that you should chase money. And I think all sides are nonsense. There's no side. It's all there's no judgment call about it. So whatever you desire, that's what you're going to do anyways. There's no room for it's good or it's bad. Okay, what if I say it's bad? You're gonna change, right? You're gonna change? Like, what if, oh, I don't like that seminar. Is he gonna stop all his seminars the next week? That's what he wants to do. So that's his call. Nothing is anybody else's call. It's your call.
Yeah, and that goes back to another unlock. And again, this is something I had to discover through immense suffering throughout my life. But when I came across some of your work, where the observation being, again, there's no universal shoulds, right? People simply do what drives them, right? As I understood that, it became very clear, okay, what's the point in forcing people to come to me? And even your point about you can't be sure, like the reason you are telling people that, or the reason you are not telling people that your work will be helpful for them is because you actually can't be sure, right?
That's right. That's right. That's honest. I don't know,
Yeah.
you know? So for every guy who reads my work and that, they benefit from it somehow, you think there's others who don't, you think there's others who don't benefit? Of course. There's for every one of those, there's others who read it and say, oh, this is like, I don't like this at all. So how can I know which one they're going to be, you know?
Yeah, and in my younger days, I thought that the right answer, again, now I realize it's the conditioning, but the right answer was, oh, I got to argue why this is not right. And it's like, there's no point in arguing. If it doesn't resonate, leave it. If it resonates, take it. That's as plain as it gets.
Yeah.
There's no point wasting time in arguments and debate on these types of matters.
Yes. But see, like back to your earlier point, once again, no judgment. You said, well, there's no point. And I'm not saying you feel this way, but let's say you said earlier, well, what's the point in trying to say, oh, come to me, listen to my stuff, like you were saying earlier, right? And you said there's no point in that. But the reason that you were doing that, I'm not saying you were, whatever, if you were or you weren't, but the reason that would be happening is because the person gains a lot of pleasure for having a lot of people come to him, right? So he isn't being benevolent. There's no benevolence. There's no altruism. It's just garbage things. It's not true. You're doing it because that person who, come to me, please follow me and read my books. That's because he gains pleasure from more people who come. Even if it's because, oh, he feels like he helped them and he likes to, that's fine. But that's why he does it. That's what I said. Your desire informs your behavior. And the desire isn't a good desire or a bad desire. But I don't mean that you have a desire to hurt people. I don't mean that. But your desire to, however you do desire, whatever you desire, it's not good or bad. That's what you are going to do. That's where your motivation is.
It turns out that observation, the desire is the desire. And the more I aligned with that, what I found is it just actually unlocked tremendous amount of creativity in my own work.
And in all honesty, just for the purposes of this talk, I wished it kind of didn't. Do you know why? Because I run so far, and you aren't doing it, I'm saying from my end, I run so far from the brochure that if you do this, you'll get that, that I would like your story to be a failure story. Like I don't want, oh, see, because he aligned with his desire, look what he got, boys and girls, and you should too. I hate that stuff so desperately that I'd rather you say fail so none of the boys and girls come. So they don't listen. Like I hate, once again, we are who we like. Our nature is our nature, right? Back to the blueberries and the bananas, and none of that is good or bad, right? And I intrinsically hate the oversell. I hate hype. I'm more apt to listen to the guy who says, this probably is not going to work for you. I'll listen to him. And he probably be right. It probably won't work. But still, I respect that. I despise the overhype. I despise the headline. I despise oh, do this and you'll get. I so vigorously hate that anything that smacks of that, like someone says, "Oh, if I come to you, will I succeed?" No, you won't. Get out. You won't. You won't. In fact, I'll make you worse. Please leave. Don't ask me that question. I hate this, like the come to me and the expert talk and the coach this and the I will make you this, and if you do this, you'll get all this stuff. Like that's my reaction to when you say, "Oh, well, I align with desire." And you it unlocked my creativity. Like I don't want anybody to know that, because I don't want the The neon light thing, the come here and you will get this.
Show me tangible outcomes of your clients and,
Well,
you know,
yeah, I'm like,
all
I, I,
that.
I don't, I guess I'm so averse to even the seed of convincing that, and once again, that's a personality thing, right? That's
Mhm.
a
Not good or bad.
not good or bad. That's my nature. I'm not a brochure guy, right? And the next door neighbor could be a brochure guy. No, neither is good or bad. It's just however you're built. I'm not built that way. I'm built more to send you away than to bring you.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is one does have to come to these realizations on their own, right? Like it's
Yes,
sure somebody can say the words, like I was saying earlier, right? Like that intellectual understanding versus visceral. There is a wide chasm there. And on that point, related, what you're talking about is just you do what drives you, right? What motivates you. And somebody recently asked me, again, within my own craft, so why do you do this, right? And the only answer I could find is I don't know, right?
sure.
Like, and then I felt myself wanting to justify that genuine, real answer by saying, well, if I had told you that, oh, I'm doing it to give back, right? Like, would
No,
that
these are
make
all
me?
just crappy, nonsense, stupid answers. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they'll make you like me more. But
Right.
really, the only answer I have is I don't know why.
Yeah. The world is not ready for truth. Okay. And so the more truth you speak, the more you'll be disliked. That's how just think of it, right? That's the world that everyone has signed up for voluntarily, right? That you live in a world in which untruth sells. Untruth gets you disliked. That's the world you live in. Everything here is backwards. Everything in the world is backwards. So the more honest you are in your expression and the less polished it is, the less for a public audience, right? It is created, the less ribbons and bows it has on it, the less the less it goes through the processing machine of public approval, the more you'll be, well, alien, dislike, this guy's weird, fringe, whatever it is. That's the way it is, right? And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying it has to be that way because the world is upside down. It already is the upside down. So it is a manufacturing factory for untruth. So the more truthful you are, the more alien you are. So the world demands nonsense answers from you because those are acceptable on a social level. And that allows people to like you. And that allows one to play the game of getting more likes and subscribes and more followers. That's the game. Now, I'm not saying it's a wrong game. That's fine. I'm once again, I have no judgment against that. No problem. It's just whatever moves you.
Yeah, and it seems to me, obviously, I'm only a sample size of one. I can only speak from my experience, but an individual who is doing this in a way, like, why do you do this? Because I love it. Why do you love it? I don't know. That's where the
Correct.
story ends.
Correct.
And but the individual who's reached that stage likely doesn't care about the criticism of a few or of many, that,
Reach,
oh, this is
reach,
not an
reached,
exact
reach what stage?
the stage where the individual understands that they do it because they love it and they don't actually know why, and it's okay. There's no need to
Well, but
explain.
then, but then they would also have to reach the stage of being able to speak so matter-of-factly on a public stage, right? Now we're getting back to the alignment of the multiple perfect storms, right? So they may reach the stage inside of themselves to where they know that the reason they do it is because they love it. That's the main reason they do it. But then they also feel compelled to play the game of, okay, well, I can't just say that, right? I have to say something that passes the social test. And so they have to also have the DNA or the interest to say, well, I don't really want to I don't want to play your word game either. I don't want to give you your crap answer, right? So that also is a DNA thing.
Mhm.
Because if you give a crap answer, if you don't give a crap answer that's socially acceptable, then you won't be, or there's a chance, an increased chance that you will not be liked. So then you have to have the DNA of not caring if you're liked. You see the lining up, like so many DNAs have to come together, none of which is good. I'm just saying that's.
Yeah, I see. It seems again, the interesting thing about the truth is it is the most practical thing there is. So even for such an individual, the truth is still the way, which is if this is my objective, I understand this truth about the world and what it expects. And so, you know,
Sure.
I can
And
still
and
achieve my
and so
objective.
you have to I'm not even going to say decide. I don't think it's a choice. I just think how you're built.
Yes.
It's do you want to play the game? Right?
Mhm.
So I don't know, I have like rebel DNA, right? I didn't choose that. I don't so I I feel insult against myself if I play the game of the world, right? The world is my enemy. I don't want anything to do with it. So I don't, I have no problem. Why are you here? I don't know. Like, I don't, just I am because I am. That's honest, right? And it's not a good thing. It isn't that I'm saying, look at me, I'm being honest. No, I don't, I just like it. That's why I said it. I like honesty and truth, right? So I would rather be true to myself than true to the world. I feel a personal defeat for playing games, maybe to my own detriment, right? Because people say, "Oh, you could have so many more followers, you can make so much more money, and you could get so much more invites, and you can be on the stage, and you can." Well, that's fine, but like, at what expense? It's against my religion to play the game, so to speak.
It's that each human being is unique. So it seems there's a problem generally that there's an expectation that, like, well, there is only, oh, yes, certainly, if this is what you're doing, then you should max followers, right? Like you
Yes,
should max out
yes,
your followers.
yes.
But every
No,
individual
but
is
no, but
unique.
and from that person's perspective, because and that's a reasonable perspective, and most would have that perspective, and it isn't necessarily wrong, and it's very logical, and it's very reasonable, and it's very well intentioned as well.
Yes.
But once again, it has to be vehemently understood that the way that I do things and how I do it and the way I go about it and what I say isn't good, isn't bad, it isn't right, it isn't correct, it isn't incorrect. I'm not justifying that the way that I do things is a good way to do them. I fly by the seat of my pants. Okay? There's no strategy to that. So I'm not justifying it. I'm simply saying that's what motivates me. So that's what I do. And I'm not even saying that you should do what motivates you. I'm not even saying that. So that has to be very intrinsically understood is that I'm not trying to protect myself and say that, well, if we had a debate, I could tell you that my way is better. And see, that's why it's not that deep. I do what I feel. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt me. I'm not saying it doesn't help me. I'm not saying anything. But that's how I'm made. I'm made to do things according to my central core. I don't follow what the world says. In fact, I do the opposite.
And again, then we're back to DNA because
Back to DNA.
you have the DNA to whatever the words are. I don't feel
Yes.
like I'm doing justice to the words, but like to be in tune with what that is inside of
Yes,
you.
that's right. That's right. And there's nothing good about it. Nothing.
Right. It's not
Right?
a point of virtue in any way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Gupta, any other thoughts for our conversation today?
No. Sincere
Great.
questions. I mean, it was an honest questions.
Thank you. This is always a pleasure.
Sure. Thanks.